I think it's about the funding. We've still got the same size school grounds, for example, as bigger schools, and we still have to maintain them, heat them, electricity, internet connection, all of those things, which is the same whether you're a big school or a small school. But yeah, we're given less money.
You're listening to Around the School Table, hosted by me, Steve Davis, and proudly powered by Zuno Suite. We'll be bringing together the many voices shaping primary and secondary education across Australia, from principals and teachers to education thought leaders and system innovators. Whether you're in the classroom, the staff room, or the boardroom, this is your podcast to be informed, inspired, and connected. Today on Around the School Table, we're joined by Lisa Burt, Principal of Knox Central Primary School, a small but vibrant community of just 74 students. Lisa brings a hands-on leadership style shaped by her experiences at a larger school and her unique role teaching PE. She shares how she's creating predictable, inclusive classrooms that empower students, especially those with higher rates of autism, and how embracing phonics and tools like Dibbles has helped build reading confidence. Now, amid national teacher shortages, Lisa also reveals some creative strategies for staffing and how smart technology supports her school's success. So if you're interested in the unique challenges and strengths of small schools, I think this conversation is going to give you some valuable insights and some inspiration. Lisa, welcome to Around the School Table.
Morning, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Now, you were assistant principal at Richmond Primary, a school of about 350, thereabouts. Now you're the principal of Knox Central, 74 students. I believe you even teach PE in the school. So, can we start? How does your leadership style or your approach to community changed in moving to a much smaller, more spacious school?
Yeah, so at Richmond was definitely in a suburb, so very small classrooms on top of each other, that kind of thing. We had to take the children over across the road to a council park for the playground to play on. So when I first came to Knox Central, I was like, whoa, there is so much space. We're on a giant block with, a huge oval, a couple of basketball courts, few playgrounds to play in. So the size of the space was a shock to me. And I was just thinking about all the gardening that had to be done and all of that kind of thing,
Really?
So yeah. So the school's responsible for the maintenance and the gardening and all of those kind of things. So I was like, how? And it was when I got here, mind you, it was after the summer holidays, but I thought, oh, it's such a mess, and we just need to weed and mow and tidy up and those kind of things. But I guess the difference, and this is my first principal role. So starting off, it was scary and those kind of things, but I guess for me the first thing is the same as at any school for any teacher, that you just have to build the relationships and you have to be visible and present, so just making sure that I was around outside all the time for parents and even the kids during lunchtime and those kind of things, just so they could see that I was around and I was here for them and they could get to know me as a person and as a teacher and as a school leader. So I think that was the first thing to do. And even the staff, I didn't obviously know any of the staff as well. So, and I still really do now. This is my 8th year of teaching, but every morning I will go into each classroom and say good morning to the teachers and just see what's on for the day and if they need me for anything and those kind of things. Mind you, we only have 5 classes, so it's much easier for me to do that than principal at a bigger school. But even when I was at Richmond, I used to do the same thing, just pop around to all the classrooms. I think it's important. Teachers are busy setting up, for the day, especially at this school, they're often here from 7:30 in the morning to get ready for the day. So, so I just go around and check that everyone's okay, those kind of things. And then, yeah, once the relationships are established, like nowadays, everyone knows me. I've been here for a long time. But it's still maintaining that visibility is the main thing. People want to know that you're available and here for them to support them in whatever ways they can. So in terms of there's children here, they know me very well. As you said, I teach PE every week, so they see me in a different, a different light. But I guess the challenging part comes from I'm the only person available, if things go wrong, So in a bigger school, they would definitely have an assistant principal, welfare coordinator, year level coordinators, learning specialists, those kind of things. We just don't have that here. So that's the challenge in our school is, if someone needs my help in year 3, and then I'll go over there, but then all of a sudden something's happened in another classroom, there's no one there to sort of go and help those people. So that is the challenge. And then balancing that with a day a week of teaching and then the huge workload that comes with being a principal is that is definitely the challenge.
I am completely curious about you having that dual role of also being a PE teacher, because I might have lived a cloistered life, but I can't think of any other principals who are also PE teachers. You might consider that they do maths or geography or something else, maybe. Has that helped get you closer to people? Because it's hard to be an austere, distant figure when you're sweating in gym clothes, chasing balls around the yard.
It is, but I think it also makes you real, and that's, especially in this school community, that's what they want. They want someone who's relatable, that, is just like them, who can talk about the footy or the basketball or those kind of things, as well. In this school, there's lots of families that haven't had positive experiences with education, and so so they at the start can be wary or intimidated by, oh, here comes the principal, but when they see me in my active wear and tracky pants and things like that, they go, oh, yeah, she's just going to be doing PE today. And yeah, and then, it's also fun for me. I was a PE teacher, but I've always played sport and things like that. So, I love jumping around and, shooting hoops with the kids and that kind of thing. Yeah. So
there's another edge too. I remember going to school. I never got smacked by the school principal, but back in the days when that happened, but they could put you in detention. When your principal is a PE teacher, what do you make us do? Push-ups or burpees or anything?
Yep, I absolutely do. So we, the kids play this game when out on yard duty, and it's called Teacher Tiggy. So they've got to hide, and the teachers have to find them hiding in the yard. And so yeah, if I find them, I make them do star jumps or push ups or something like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, and teaching PE, it's a little bit easier. Being so busy, because I've always taught PE, it's easy for me to plan. It's easy for me to organise. I don't have to spend a heap of time on the classroom or the teaching side of things. Whereas if I was in a classroom teaching maths or reading or English, there's a lot more planning and involved and, sort of more in depth than that. So, yeah.
I want to turn our attention to the classrooms now, because as a small school, Knox Central's got a higher than average number of students with ASD or autism. And I've heard you've set up your classrooms in a thoughtful, structured way. There are daily schedules on the board, for example. What else do you do to create inclusive, predictable, empowering learning environments?
All the things that we have set up, they help all the children, as well as, extra support for the kids with autism. But so some of the things that we will do, as you talked about, was the daily schedule. So I think that is one of the most important things. So every day the teachers will have up on their board what's happening for the whole day at what time. And that just for everyone just goes, okay, I know what's coming up. I don't have to stress about something popping up out of the ordinary. So one of the big sort of, I guess, triggers for kids with autism is the unpredictability of school and change. So, that just creates extra stress for them. So the reliable routines, like I could tell you now it's 10:40 what every single classroom would be doing because it's the same every day. From prep to grade 6, they all walk in, unpack, get started on their spelling words. Like it's the same routine every day. And even if we have emergency teachers or other staff come in, they know the routine as well. So the routine and the predictability is really important. Then we have areas set up in the classroom for all kids, again, to, if they need a break, if they need to just go and chill out for a minute to regulate themselves back down to when they can learn and communicate again with the teacher and the other kids. So there's an area, often there's cushions, sometimes there's a tent, sometimes there's an area just outside the classroom. Being, we've got lots of spare classrooms because we're small now. So we've also got withdrawal spaces completely set up for kids with bean bags, fidget toys, things like that. And they can go with one of our integration aides to that room if they need to. Sometimes we suggest it to them. Sometimes they'll come and say, can I have a break? And we're always, there's timers in there. So we'll say, yeah, you can have 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is, and check in with them and say, are you ready to come in now? And most of the time they are. Another thing, I guess, is we are part of one of the department's initiatives is Schoolwide Positive Behaviours. So it's, again, for all students, but it really helps students with extra needs around just rewarding and acknowledging good behaviour, positive behaviour, great choices and things like that. So if you came to our school, you would hear a lot of, well done, I love how you're sitting, wow, look at that person's work, so that's a constant thing. So that for all kids, they go, oh, I better do that too, because I want the teacher to say that to me. Or, we have a token system where we add tokens in so the class can get a reward. And then if we get so many class rewards, then we get a whole school reward and those kind of things. So the positive, just reinforcing the positive really helps. Also within our classroom environment, we're really careful about causing sensory overload, so we don't have too much on the walls or hanging down from the roof. We try and keep it quiet, so just to keep the environment as calm and as supportive as possible as well.
Still juggling forms the old-fashioned way? Say hello to Student Forms by Zuno. You can create, collect, and manage all your student forms online in one simple, secure platform. Save time, stay organised, and quick access everything you need, anytime. Visit zuno.com.au and see how Student Forms by Zuno can work for your school.
When I think back to my days, every inch of every wall was covered with all sorts of different things. You make a really good point that it's for all students benefit from this. And I think that's the cusp where some are more advanced than others, but as we accommodate the needs of particularly kids with autism, we all benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Now, I heard a story a few years ago. You walked into a grade 2 classroom and you realised the kids were not reading. So since then, you've embraced phonics and you're using dibbles, as I referred to earlier, and other ways of sort of measuring and developing reading skills. In fact, I think you were also quoted as saying, phonics gives kids confidence. Can you expand on this for me?
I'm a bit of a late adopter to the phonics, way of teaching reading. So I think, like everything, things become trendy and then not trendy and trendy. So when I was a teacher in the classroom, I guess the whole reading approach was how you taught reading. So we'd sit with a book and we'd, work with the book and learn the words as we went along. And that was different, I guess, than when I was at school, and now it's back to that way. So, there's definitely now within the department a big push for the teaching of phonics. Well, it's been made mandatory, 25 minutes daily of phonics from prep to grade 2. All schools are expected to do that. The department has developed a reading approach for prep to, foundation, we call it now, foundation to year 2, where, there are certain expectations of how to teach reading and those kind of things. So they have what's called the Big Six, which includes phonics, but also oral language, and vocabulary and comprehension. And then phonics. So phonics is the sounds with the letters, matching the sounds and the letters together. There's also before that is what they call phonemic awareness, which is just hearing the sounds in the words. So before they can match the sound with a letter, they have to actually be able to hear that. So, and believe it or not, that is hard for some kids. Yeah, it sounds like it should come naturally, but it is a skill that they need to learn. So they have 25 minutes of explicit phonics teaching every day in foundation to year 2. And as I said, I was a late adopter. So before the department made it compulsory, I had to be convinced by a speech therapist, but she convinced me. So we heavily invested in a phonics program, and the difference has been unbelievable.
What did she say to you that convinced you?
And so she had been doing some, assessments with lots of children, and she just said, this is what I think you need, and here's all the evidence that supports that phonics is the best way to get people to be able to read, and here are a number of different evidence-based phonics programs. You can select one, and we did pay, and we heavily invested, I guess, in the program, in the books, in the teaching resources. And now, though, the department has developed their own Phonics Plus program, it's called. So schools don't have to make that huge investment anymore. They can just take the resources that the department has developed and use those.
Is the department's resources, are they much better than the other ones you were using? You don't have to answer that, by the way. I don't want to get you into trouble. The national teacher shortage, it's hitting some schools very hard. How are you managing staffing at Knox Central, and what creative solutions have you found to keep things running smoothly?
Oh, I don't know whether we've had creatives, but so we just, I guess, been fortunate in some way. And, I guess now when I think about it, I'm proud of that for us. We've been managed to hold on to our teachers, so we haven't had much movement out of the school. So I think in my 8 years here, we've only had one teacher leave the school. And so I kind of think, now I can say that that's because they like it here. It's a nice environment, they're well supported and those kind of things. And I think in regional areas, in particular, and high schools where there's subject specific, they're looking for subject specific teachers, that's where the shortage is hitting the hardest, I believe, So we've been pretty lucky. Even we've got a grandpa who's a grandpa at our school, but also a retired teacher who works as an emergency teacher just for us. So even when we've got teachers away sick, we're able to utilise him, which is really good, and the kids love having him as well. So, but the department has developed, because they're acutely aware of the shortage, so they've got a few good systems in place now to I guess make applying for jobs easier and less onerous, and those kind of things. So the way they've set up the recruiting has made it a bit easier for teachers to, and they're also doing a lot to support, in particular, graduate teachers, with extra professional learning and extra time out of teaching, out of the classroom, to plan and assess and mentor teacher and those kind of things. So that the department has worked particularly hard about that.
Now, you're a small school, but that hasn't stopped you from accessing best-in-class software. I mean, there's Zuno, Student Maps, even BPOS. What other technology are you using at Knox Central?
I think all of our classrooms now access the Google suite of stuff. So we use Google Classroom daily, and I think Google Classroom we had no idea about until COVID, until all the lockdowns, and then we had to be creative on how we were going to get the work to the kids and those kind of things. And Google Classroom was absolutely a game changer for us there. So now even our little preppies know how to access Google Classroom and the videos. So teachers can upload videos of themselves or just a video from YouTube or something like that to expand their learning and things like that. We heavily use the Google Suite, and then we have a few other programs that we access for learning. One's called Mathletics, and Reading Eggs, and both of those programs they can access from home as well. So we send their password and username home, so they can do some more work on there if they want to then. So yeah, and they're the teacher especially, for both I think, but the teacher can individualize their lessons or what the kids can access. So if we want someone to practice a particular skill, we can set up their account just so they practice those skills. So it can be targeted.
Mathletics sounds suspiciously like something a PE-based principal would want to use. Look, many of our listeners would be very familiar with it, but is it all the exercises in the maths are based on Johnny did 3 push-ups and Susan did 7 push-ups? No.
No. No. Yeah. No, it's good though. It can, as I said, it can be really targeted. And, once you get through what the set tasks are, there are fun game type things that the kids are still practicing their math skills, but they think they're having a game of something, which is good. Yeah.
Look, if you could wave a wand and change one thing about how small schools are supported and perceived in the education system, what would it be?
I think it's about the funding. So schools are funded on how many kids are at their school. And so, we obviously have less stuff to buy and things like that. But I think, and we don't go without, but it's always a struggle with money. So the funding, we've still got the same size school grounds, for example, as bigger schools, and we still have to maintain them, heat them, electricity, we still have to pay for internet connection, all of those things, which is the same whether you're a big school or a small school. But yeah, we're given less money to do it. So I think that is definitely an issue. The other thing I find challenging is that some families think we we're not as good, as we've got a huge school up the road from us that has over 700 kids. And so, they think, all I say is just come and have a look and meet us, and I'm sure you'll be. But it's hard to get them, hard to get people, because they just think, oh, they're big, so they must be good. So that's a perception in the community that I've learned not to worry about, because I don't think I can control that. And I think the other thing is that our families also think, which I think is true partly, that kids are more supported in a small school because there's less kids in the grade, and so we have our prep class currently has 8 kids in it. So that's a lot of individualised support and our grade 1 class has 14. So in that way, there is some support. But as I was explaining before, if they need support outside the classroom, then we don't have that support for them.
So there's a balance all the way around. But Knox Central, is it small because not enough people are coming, or is there an actual limit to how big you can grow? Are you cast as a small school? Full stop. Is that your DNA? Or are we going to look at 700 students going to your school in the next few years?
So we definitely have the space to have about 400 here. And, I think the challenge is just the changing demographics. So we had 400 in the 90s, and then, those kids grew up, went to high school, but mums and dads have stayed in the area. So there just hasn't been kids in the area. I think that's mostly the reason. And that's just starting to change now, where we're seeing younger families come in. So that's definitely the main reason, I think, and we are tucked away sort of on a suburban street, not too close to anything but houses. So often people just don't know we're here, as well, which is a challenge.
And just my last question is, I have actually used the term small school about 7,000 times during this interview. Do you bristle inside when I say that? Is part of that my language, or our language that we use? Because I say that thinking exactly as you pointed out before, so much attention for the students and for foundation students. What great foundations, 7 kids.
Yeah.
But should we change our language, Lisa?
It's funny you mentioned. So there are in our network of schools, so in the Knox network of schools, there are 6 primary schools that are less than 150 or less kids. And we work together. And when we started that network, when I first started, I coined the phrase boutique. So we have a boutique schools network, which we think is a positive mindset on that. But I think, you do have probably a good point there, that just saying small schools may bring a negative connotation. Families will come to visit and they'll be worried that the school's going to close down and things like that. So it's a bit of, definitely reassuring that that's not going to happen. And
Oh, no, you'll make the education minister do 700 laps of the Oval before that ever happened. Lisa Burt, thank you very much for joining me around the school table.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.